Okay, let's talk Singapore. Um, Singapore was not my best weekend in terms of results. It was not great. I'm not happy with it. The weekend was fantastic overall, of course. These events are always amazing. I always enjoy going to them. But results left something to be desired. Um, on all 3 days, all three events. And it really kind of shined a light on what's going on and stuff. So I'll talk about that a little afterwards or at the end. But there's actually a lot I want to talk about for this event. Um, and I'm going to start off by talking about my stuff. Um, Pro Tour, day one. We're getting to play. Um, this is my fourth Pro Tour. Um, and it was interesting. I felt weird going into this one. Um, it was the Light of Soul playmat one, which that one up there is the second one. This is the one. I'll post a picture of this later today as well, or the day I'm recording this. This is signed by a whole bunch of people, just a whole bunch of people from across the community. There's a couple people that I should have gotten to sign it, and I didn't. One being a couple of them being Shoma, Arthur, and then James White. I wasn't able to get James White to sign it, so I'm gonna have that with me in Philly. James, if you see this, I want it signed because that playmat looks so good, and Light of Soul is a very special card to me. I wanted a second one. I have the one that I use as my playmat in my backpack, and that one is a memento, just a little extra thing. And the Coronet Peak playmat goes on the wall with it now. So, um, this was a, this was that was really nice. I liked that playmat. It's really nice. But Pro Tour, we bring Prism, of course, and I'm gonna talk about the whole arc of where I think Prism is at towards the end of this. Um, Round one, we hit a mirror. This is a little awkwardly placed. Oh well. This is Liam Bennett, very good Prism player. Absolutely knows what he's doing. He wins the dice roll. He gets to go first. He goes Red Herald and Yellow Herald, which means I can't stop it. I don't have Soul Shield in hand at least. Um, and so he gets a Herald through, and I drop my hand, and it's I think Blue Triumph, Yellow Wrath, passing Pierce Reality. Um, and I think I misplay this hand because what I do is I send the Blue Herald pitching the Wrath so that I can then develop one of the blue Spectre or develop Pierce. I don't need passing in the matchup, or I don't want passing in the matchup. Um, and I think I'm actually supposed to pitch the passing and play the Wrath. Just guarantee that the Herald hits, guarantee you get a card in Soul. Um, I'm going to probably have to block the first Herald anyways because he's already got a card in Soul, and then I'm just going to send a Herald, play Pierce, and see if that can get me ahead. So I think I misplayed that. I don't know that it would have mattered. He had Cataclysms, I didn't. His deck was firing on all cylinders basically the entire game, and mine stuttered a lot. This just felt like one of those Prism mirrors where there weren't too many choices to be made. I think I made one mistake, but I don't think it mattered. Um, it stung a little bit to start my PT this way, but Liam's a very good Prism player. He knows what he's doing, and I think started this event 5-0 as for it. So, um, yeah. Round two, I find a Syndra. This was an interesting game, and I think it was winnable. Um, I had gotten to a point in my Syndra testing where I knew how I wanted to use Calming Gesture, or I had like some different ways of using Calming Gesture, and I didn't get to the point in my testing where I learned when to break those. Um, so I used my Calming Gesture at the wrong time. It cost me Imperium Rapture, and I think it cost me the game. I think this is a very winnable game, even with Syndra having kind of an insane turn. Hello. Um, but I think this one was a mistake, and I think it was winnable. And I think it was I just needed like 5 or 10 more games in the matchup to like solidify game plans and when I do stuff, when I use equipment, um, and whatnot. Oh my goodness, come on, hop up if you're gonna hop up. All right, round three, another Syndra. This one I'm not sure where stuff went wrong. It just felt like I couldn't get going really. Like I was stuck on blue heralds most of the time. I just wasn't seeing my reds, or I saw like all red heralds at the same time and it wasn't mixing properly. Um, I think this is one of the games that kind of had me looking at my list because like I would want to Wrath, but Wrath was my only yellow or something like that. Um, but this one just felt kind of weird, like stuff didn't line up and it didn't work. Okay, you're gonna keep yelling at me. So you're getting up here. Um, but yeah, we we dropped to 03 to start the event. And I'm yes. Um, and I kind of mental boom a little bit. Um, this is not it. I'm not proud of it. It's not where I want to be. Um, this was not a good day. Um, Especially when I hit Syndra, which should be a matchup I'm pretty comfortable in and feel good about. Losing those back to back did not feel good, and just felt like I had not come into this event prepped enough to deal with what was going on, um, which I'll kind of go into more. I'll come back to this. We find a Slippy in round four. Uh, I kind of just do my thing. In this one, it felt like they weren't stopping my heralds from hitting a ton, or at least they didn't hold them off long enough. They started out blocking them pretty aggressively. Their one Bonds of Agony turn where they kind of chose to go was the turn I had Soul Shields. I know that I misplayed that turn, but it didn't end up mattering. Slippy feels like he loses steam a lot faster than Syndra when you get him into blocking patterns, which is weird. Should feel like his 2-card hands are like more efficient, quote unquote, because like he's only using the go again from his ability once, but in reality that just makes all the reacts so much less threatening, it feels like. Which just lets me play around everything a lot cleaner. If I don't know. The matchup still feels very good, but 03 bracket, I don't know. Round five, this is Slippy. I don't think they had much experience in the Prism matchup. I kind of just got to go ahead and do my thing, but it keeps us alive at least for day two. We're at 2 and 3. We're not happy about it, but we're just going to go draft and see what happens. I'm still not feeling super comfortable in draft, and it's not to say that I don't feel good about high Cs. I don't feel good about draft as a format because I'm just still not comfortable with the process of not just like building the deck on the fly, but building the deck on the fly while reading the pod and what's happening around me and what people are taking. I'm still not super comfortable with that. And I have to spend a lot of mental energy consciously thinking about it, and I can't mental shortcut any of it, which means I make mistakes in draft, and I make some mistakes in this one for sure. That being said, we get pack one, pick one, Scurv. Okay. Of note, I think we pass like a red Scar, a red Rabble, and a red Nimblism or something like that. It was crazy, the aggro package we were passing, or I think it was like red Nimblism, red Rabble, Nimblism gloves or something. I remember it was like 3 cards where I'm like, well, we're never seeing those again, and we're putting some aggro players to our left, which I don't love doing as Scurv necessarily. That being said, this is my first time ever drafting Scurv, so I don't know. Like pick 2, I think is like a red Walk the Plank, and then pick 3 is Buccaneer's Bounty, and stuff just kind of goes from there. I misread the pod a little bit, and no, not that. And in pack 3, I try to wheel a couple blue generics, and I misread our pod as being slightly more balanced than it is, and it ended up being a 4 puffin pod. So it was a 4-2-1-1 pod, with 2 gravy bones. And I don't, and I try to wheel 2 blues, and they don't make it back to me, and I get stuck with 6 blues, and the deck ends up being fine. But I have no idea what a good Scurv deck looks like at that point in 8. I wanted at least like 8. I ended up with enough yellows that were decent that I made it work. But 6 blues felt a little low, even for Scurv, who can like kind of cheat resources on the Blossom effect or the Tunic effect from Rum. We sit down round 1, and this is against one of the Puffins. The deck is just kind of gross. I took all of the generics higher than I usually do, which means I ended up with 2 red Fiddler's Green and a red on the horizon. It was kind of nuts in that regard, at least. So like the turn 1 of this game, I send a 7, pitching a red and a yellow, Arsenal, a life for a life, and I draw up red chart, blue rally, red fiddlers, and they send 7, or they send 8, and I block 7 with an equipment and rally and 2 fiddlers green triggers, so I go to 25. And then on my turn, I break chess piece and go red chart into life for a life, and I go to 26. This deck ended up being pretty decent, but it felt like I was just kind of winging it a lot. The on-turn, off-turn play pattern for Scurv wasn't too hard to pick up for make a gold kiss Rum, use the gold kiss Rum if the hand allowed it. If not, just make another Rum. Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of worked. I end up hitting a second Puffin round 2. The one of Marlin lost their round 1. I think it was to one of the Gravies. I assume it was to one of the Gravies. Considering they were playing a mirror. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they lost to one of the Gravies. This was Pudding. Pudding was immediately to my left. Or I was passing to him to my left. And his deck was just very 2-block heavy because 1 of 4 Puffin. You're not going to get many 3 blocks. And I just had enough I had exactly enough damage to take him down to 1 card on a key turn. Present exactly enough where it demands 3 cards from him, no matter what, even if they were 3 blocks. So not no matter what. If he had a 4 block, then like he gets to keep 2 cards, but I was pretty sure there weren't any 4 blocks unless they came from his left. But we end up getting this one just on kind of deck quality, it felt like, but it was still actually very close. His turn 1 was very good. It was red Nimblism gloves, Jack Be Quick into a 2 for 6. So he just presented like 15. And I had a red Fiddlers and I went to 9 effectively. 15? Yeah, 15 with a piece of equipment. But we managed to claw that back. Yeah. And then for the 3-0 in the pod, we find Gravy Bones. This is 1 of 2. They have a very good deck. It's very solid. I get slightly awkward draws where I feel like I'm forced to use Sticky Fingers a little early, and I probably wasn't supposed to use Sticky Fingers that early, but that's just my inexperience with that deck, where I'm not sure. And I end up being 2 damage short of this. They have 1 card left in deck. It's only an ally, so they have no block value left, and they're at 2, and they have an ally on board. And I have 3 cards left, and I have no attack action. It's like blue chart, blue something, red Fiddlers, and no attack action. So we end up a little short, and I'm pretty sure I could have played that game better, almost certainly. They had a key moment where they blew up a Rum with an HMS Kraken, I think it is, whichever HMS gets overpowered and blows up items. They blew up a Gold Kiss Rum at a very key time, and that was big. It mattered. It like put me a full like turn behind. It honestly cost me like 4 or 5 value on that turn, I think, because that was going to be a very good Rum turn for me. But yeah, we end up dropping that one just barely. For the first time I've ever drafted Scurv. It's not bad, considering I also hadn't looked at any Scurv decks before then, which was stupid. I should have, like, that's the easiest thing for me to have done is just go look at, like, some of the 3-0 Scurv decks in the Runaway server, and I just hadn't. There we go. I don't know why. I don't have it. Well, I think I know why. There's no excuse. There's a reason, but there's no excuse for me not being prepared for this in that way, at least. But that leaves us at 4-4 for the PT. We do not make day two. A good little run back, at least, and a draft that I was just kind of handed again. When I'm handed drafts, I can make them work usually, but I'm still like, I almost went Marlin, even though I had pack one, pick one Scurv. Marlin was so open that I almost went Marlin, even with the Scurv, and I probably could have, and still done very well. Would I have done as well? Maybe not, but like, I don't know. Um, I wasn't happy with this. I wasn't happy with either side of this CC or draft. Um, yeah, but this means we're calling gaming. So, calling Singapore, day one. Round one, we hit Acilio. This is actually Josh Neitzel, who ends up being the first seed out of Swiss. We have a very good game, a very close game. It required both of us to play well, I think. This was not one of those blowouts either way. It was actually a very technical game. This matchup is not really lopsided, even though most of the games will look lopsided. He had a burn bear at kind of a key point for a popper, if I recall correctly. And then his combo turn, I had not seen Blue Blast come out in Acilio decks, really. And I didn't Halo for Triumph on his first attack. I did it later on his second. And he ended up having Blue Blast, Somersault, Blue Blast, Red Blast, Red Blast. Because he was just like bouncing CLV plus Sigil. Sigil Brilliance, excuse me. Like the entire turn. And if I Halo for Triumph on the first one and not the second one, I have two Spectral Shields out that can cover the first two Blue Blasts then. Footsteps can cover the third. A card ends up covering a Red Blast or a Red 0 for 4, and another card covers a Red 0 for 4, and I still have a full blue in hand to flip a second Angel, because I get to keep actually an Angel alive that entire time. I can flip a second Angel to cover 4 more damage on the Mind Warp that's at the end. There's no way I'm keeping all the cards for Mind Warp to have any effect. I get Mind Warp for 19, and I take 14 of it, and I'm supposed to only take 10, because Halo takes it so I can just block with 2/3 blocks on the last 2 red 0 for 4s, last 2 red blasts, and it should, if I Halo at the right time. And instead, I gave up 2 shields on the first blue blast, Footsteps card on the second and third, card Angel on the 2 reds. So I only have 1 Angel for the Mind Warp, which just, it cost me 4 health, because I Haloed 1 attack too late, because I'm not used to seeing Blue Blast in these Celio combos. But that 4 health puts me at 9 instead of 13. And that is a big difference. It means I just have way less wiggle room down the line. He has way more kill threat on my turns with shocks. I have to very carefully flip Angels. It just gives me so much less wiggle room. He goes down to like 4 to take this. So like that 4 health is just me, the difference between me being able to send 1 or 2 Heralds on that next turn, probably. Or like, I probably have to block 6, send a Herald, take 3 cards, or take 2 cards, ideally 3 if I have a red. And I just can't bother playing around Burn Bear at this point at all. And I just have to try and go 2 for 3, probably twice, to get a Herald into Arsenal and hold 3 cards so I can double Herald. And if I can double Herald, I win the game. But because I can't, I don't have the health to do so. So I end up eventually falling out of this game and losing it. And he ends up sending a Burn Bear for 7 off play Sigil, play Burn Bear with Volzar. But no, he played it very well. And I learned. Round two. This was an Ira. Was kind of boomer Ira. 12 poppers, 90 reacts. This is a tough matchup. I think I didn't get a Herald into Soul until I was at like 7 or something, and maybe there was a chance for me to claw back, but I don't know in this one. Just this matchup is hard when they have all their stuff and they block out right, and they absolutely did. They nailed it. They got this. They played this game very well. Yeah. Round two or round three, excuse me, was another Ira, but this was a much more aggro Ira. They had Whirling Mist Blossoms and Iris Blossom in their deck. I think they only had 6 poppers and 6 D-reacts, which is much easier to play around. So like they're just so much more likely to have to let heralds hit early, which just gives you space to get time to have more heralds hit and to create more space. And it was it's just much easier than 12 plus 9, obviously. But it just meant some of their hands just like don't block as well, and their equipment was a little weird. I don't think there would have been. I think there might have been one Mask Momentum draw that they would have missed, but they never activated Iris of Blossom, so I don't know. But we got our first win, puts us at 1 and 2. Tough day so far there, but we're going. Marlin, round 4. This is Cannon Marlin. We board auras into Marlin, thinking if they're aggro, we're going to be fine as long as we just sit on ALS. But everything is pretty much Cannon right now. I don't think anyone is bringing Death. Well, they can't bring Death Dealer anymore, and I don't think they're going to bring Red Spine. They'd rather just play Riptide at that point. But this was Marlin. We go auras, and I just kind of take a pivot around the 15 life total, treating it a little bit like Vinset, where I want to preserve some life because of overpower. And I just kind of pivot with Merciful plus ALS, and I find a Genesis about 2 turns later, and Merciful doesn't get cleared. And then Genesis sticks, and Aegis gets to stick for multiple turns. And they just can't deal damage at that point. I find the 2 Soul Shields at critical times. And yeah, we got the board state, and we didn't let go of it. I don't think they had a ton of experience in the Prism necessarily, just because they let the Merciful stick for a really long time. The Genesis didn't get cleared. And they made one mistake where they arsenaled a Conqueror of the High Seas, and that was the turn I went for the pivot and played the Arclight Sentinel, and they had a hand of all arrows. So that Arclight Sentinel ate a Conqueror of the High Seas, which just was like massive. It was massive for tempo. Since I didn't have a Genesis on the next turn. So it went well. Round 5. This was a Dory. This was disgusting. This was gross. I play auras into Dory just because I feel like I can play to Angels pretty well in the matchup, especially once I've like taken a solid pivot with Genesis. I don't know if that's 100% correct. I don't have a ton of reps in this matchup overall. This was a Dawnblade Dory. I think I hedge auras just because auras are much better into hatchets than Herald Aggro is. But that might be wrong. I'd actually be very curious to test this out. I don't get a Herald through super early. They're able to just kind of block out. They have a popper, kind of a key point on one of those turns, and I kind of get through all of their fridge. And I find my first Arclight Sentinel, and I have a card in Soul from Soul Shield. So I arsenal the Arclight Sentinel, and I draw a hand that is Blue Herald, Red Herald, because I have to side in 5 of them, I think, and an Arclight Sentinel. And I'm like, huh. Okay, well, maybe this is just going to be a weird turn where I go like Shariah plus Herald plus Arclight Sentinel, and see if I can catch them slipping. And so I take their turn, I drop to 5, and they get their second counter on Dawnblade. And I go Halo pitching blue, Soul or Red Herald, draw another blue Herald. And I'm like, oh, That's a lot of resources. Okay. Fetch Shariah. Flip Shariah, no resources, floating. Pitch a light blue, 2 floating. Swing with Shariah, draw 2. Draw another blue herald and a yellow. And I just play double Arclight with the Ponder token out, which is already gross. That's already a really gross turn. I still had a resource floating even because I saw 4 light blues on the I had 4 light blues on the turn. I ponder and it's a Genesis. Okay. And then I draw up my hand and there's Light of Soul. And I'm like, okay. Play Genesis. They go hit ALS, one of the 2 Arclight Sentinels. And I'm like, all right. On your turn still, play Genesis pitching Light of Soul. Light of Soul hits. And I fetch Rebirth. And there's an ALS in grave. There's an ALS in play. And I have Shariah plus Rebirth in play. And I'm going to Genesis a second card into Soul. So I can flip Rebirth, swing Rebirth, and put an ALS on top. Wait, math. Yeah, put an ALS on top, swing Shariah for 4, and guarantee draw. And not even drawing with Shariah, just swing for an extra like 4 damage because I have the resources. And just draw into Arclight, and loop is set. Like I just set loop from nothing by playing a double Arclight turn without library because I had triple Blue Herald, quad Blue Herald. I could have done it with a passing or Pierce there, but we played like 2 turns of loop. I have like 45 cards left in my deck, and my next hand is actually capable of souling one of the blue Spectras and still swinging Avalon plus playing Arclight because I have double light blue again. So I have 8 resources there. I don't know. I don't know on this one. This was the cheesiest game I played all weekend, and it wasn't close. Like, this was so much cheesier than the Prism Mirror. Like, it was just not okay. Yeah, this was gross. So, after about 2 turns, they scooped because I was just going to deck them out, even without Balana being on the field. I was actually just going to deck them out, like, just straight up. I could probably go do the math on it for like 45 cards in deck, and I'm presenting, let's call it average 7 because I'm going to miss on some number of turns. I present, I mean, it's just 7 times cards left in deck, 45, 90, 270, 315 damage presented. Yeah, they're dead in like, how many turns is that? 25 turns or something, I think, off the top of my head. 175, so about 30 turns, no matter what. And I can probably pitch stack Balana to get in there. Yeah, they scooped after a couple turns. But yeah, that puts us at 3-2. I'm just playing games at this point. I know I'm not going anywhere, but yeah. We hit a Vincent round 6, which I wasn't expecting to see a ton of. I wasn't expecting to find one. I haven't played this matchup in a while. I think it's been months since I played a Vincent. I think it was like Battlehardened Charlotte was the last time I played against a Vincent or something. Maybe more recent than that. It would have been in April during the testing. I played a game against Mara. I hadn't played since this matchup since then. And it was funny because they said I had my Light of Soul playmat out and I had Prism out already. And they're like, oh no, you're not going to like my playmat. And I'm like, is it a Brute playmat? Is it Rhinar? And he's like, no. And he rolls out Nazareth. And I'm like, oh no, this matchup is fun. I like this matchup. And he's like, it's so much fun. And I'm like, it's so technical. I love it. The matchup is really fun. I'm bad at it now. I really missed having Parable in the deck for this matchup. I think there were a couple things that I definitely made mistakes on while playing this. And I don't know if it cost me the game. I think I might lose it anyways because of a stumble that I have where I think I'm supposed to flip Themis and flip a card face down, even though it's not a cull. And I want to reserve that for the culls, but I'm not able to. Um, and I make a mistake where I have an Arclight Sentinel out and I don't prevent the rune chance, and they have to succumb and they can go around it. And that was 100% a mistake on my part. I was able to keep them locked off rune chant generation for like 5 or 6 turns. They broke vexing on like turn 3, but I was too out of practice in this matchup and I slipped. And I don't know if I win it if I don't make some of those mistakes, but I know they were mistakes nonetheless. So I ended up losing this one. They kept their creepers for like the entire game, and they just played. They played pretty well given their draw. Their draw seemed a little bit, or seemed decently awkward, but yeah. That puts us at 3-3. That puts us out of day 2 for sure. So we're just playing for fun at this point. Round 7, we find a Katsu. They are on Edge of Autumn and the Ira stuff, all the Vengeance stuff. They make a mistake. I think I leak a Herald on turn 0. Their turn 1 is really anemic. It's like yellow surging into yellow descendant pass Arsenal. So they have like a 3-card 8 pass. And I'm like, okay, we're in it. And then I think it's like the next turn. They like block out a turn. And then the next turn they decide is the go turn. And they Scar Wraps a Enact Vengeance at the end of their turn, the CNC one. Breaking their Edge of Autumn. And I Halo for Judgment and turn it face down. I actually messed this turn up, by the way, because I have an Arclight Sentinel in my arsenal and I have Light of Soul in my hand. And I am always able to Halo, see what I draw, and then I can pick if I'm going to get Rebirth or going to get Judgment. And I'm supposed to, because I draw the card and I know I have enough resources for Arclight Sentinel, play or get Rebirth, set a Herald on top, play the Arclight Sentinel, trigger Light of Soul, see a Herald on top, get Judgment, turn Edge of Autumn face down that way. So I missed a guaranteed Light of Soul hit. I knew I could do this line because even though they have Breeze Riders, they have no cards in hand. They have no way to attack again. They have no cards in Arsenal. And I'm setting an Arclight Sentinel in front of, out of Arsenal after their last attack for the turn. And they have no weapon. Half their combo cards don't work. They end up getting a nice, like, Surging Descendant, Bonds, 100 Wins, Seek Vengeance turn towards the end. But it's not enough to empty the hand or to take my whole hand. And I end up just being able to kind of lock them out of the game. I think they only had the 3 poppers in the Enact Vengeance, and they saw 2 of them on turn 0 when I had like double Triumph. I had like double Herald of Triumph when they had 2 poppers in their hand. It was very unfortunate for them in that regard. But yeah, we end up getting there on that one, just kind of doing aggro stuff and getting to flip the sword face down, which I don't think they knew about as an option. And round 8 is versus Jarl. They didn't have any tech for us really. So I like just was full IPing my combo until I found the turn that could play it, where it's like I full IP at a turn because I don't have a blue. And then I IP at the next turn because I draw a library. So I play library, and then I draw, and then the next turn he just sends like a choke slam, and I have the hand that plays it. So I go ALS. Yeah, I get the ALS Shariah Genesis. Sorry, I just had a thought on a play line that Jarl can do. ALS Shariah Genesis setup. Library gets to trigger. I think I get Merciful in the next, like Merciful Passing or something in the next hand. And I eventually get to a board state where I have 3 Angels out because Shariah's on the board and flipped. I think like Aegis is flipped. Shariah has a counter on it because Balana's already done her thing and gone. Or it's like Avalon's flipped, Shariah's flipped, and Victoria's flipped. And Balana's back in my deck. And I have Passing, Pierce. So like the beatings will continue until morale improves, is like that game state. Yeah, I just reached a game state where I had 2 win conditions up, and I think I still had double Merciful in the deck or something like that. Um, and I still had Second in the deck, and I had Balana back in the deck from Avalon. So I had all the win conditions up and ready. The D-Reacts were not poorly timed for the Jarl, but they weren't there when he needed them. And I think the one time I went for like an Erudition for 7, no Phantasm, they had double D-React in hand, but no Arsenal. So I was able to like sneak an Erudition through that way, which is like really a big decider in some of those long aura games, is like if you can get an Erudition to connect. But I just kind of did the thing, and it felt fine. So we don't make day 2 of the calling. We're at 5-3, which is fine. The games we lost were not like crazy. They weren't like huge mistakes. We didn't play terribly this day. I was just kind of doing my thing, but I felt like I was still underprepared and not where I wanted to be. My mental was still not bad, but it was off. Where I didn't feel like I was in the moment as much. I wasn't locked in. I was just kind of playing cards. And that's not where I want to be for these events. But we're going to go play the Battle Hardened. I had tweeted that I thought it was at cap, or posted on Blue Sky or whatever, that I thought it was at cap or maxed out. It was not. They just ended online registration, and you just had to register in person. There were only 78 people out of the 128 slots. So I chose to take New Prism, and basically using a list that I had from before the last ban list, where the meta was like kind of a little bit slower and a little bit worse at clearing auras. It was not good in this one. I'm not going to go into like heavy detail on this. I don't think that version of the deck is not good in LL right now, in my opinion. It was a very vestige-focused deck that it was like tome and aura abuse deck, and the meta's not there right now. Round 1, I hit a Dio. I try to play the aggro game, but I don't find an Erudition can't connect. Shariah isn't able to do its thing because Arclight Sentinel isn't really playable. I don't find a tome that I can play. It was just not it. It was not the day. But round 2, I find a Gravy Bones, which that deck is actually really funny in LL because you get Tome of Fyendal to go with your Rums, you get Cash-ins, and you get Belittles are all options. And Belittle can get red Minnowism, it can get yellow Minnowism for discards, or it can get blue Minnowism for blues to play or as resources. So like that deck has a lot of options and is like really interesting in that format. It's something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's like busted. I don't think it is, but it's like definitely something I want to watch. And then round 3, we find a Briar. We don't find any funny cards. They have Purgatory plus Carapace for us, and Sink Belows. I Halo for Triumph on a Popper, and they have the Sink Below for it. Again, no tomes. I think I resolved 2 tomes that day. Both of them were against Gravy, and they were not good enough. I used them poorly, but that's that. I'm going to work on LL a little bit more, but I worry that 32 health is not enough with how explosive the format is and how good the numbers are in the format. That being said, for something like CYB new, the deck will still probably do the thing, but it'll need a lot more work. It's not anywhere near something that I would want to like really put out to the world and endorse. But yeah, I want to talk about Prism for this weekend overall. Where is it? There it is. So this was Prism's. This is the meta that showed up to the PT. It's a little bit higher on Slippy than I had anticipated. I'm not like super surprised that he's that high. It is more than I expected, but it's not like crazy. It makes sense. I sit down across from Slippy and I feel pretty good. Gravy Bones, I feel pretty good. Syndra, I was feeling good before the weekend. Verdance, I had a little bit of a question mark, but I still felt fine. Dio, there's a game to play, but it's very swingy. And then the Mirror and Kano are fine. Victor is, it depends a lot on their tech. Acilio is fine. And Ira, it depends on the build very heavily. But I'm not anticipating a lot from those kind of bottom four, the last four of those, Kano through Ira. There's something I didn't anticipate, though. Everyone was talking about how Gravy Bones is going to be big in the meta, so people are going to be bringing extra Blanches and extra 7 powers, and it's like, everyone had Bastions at Nats. Everyone had their extra 7 power poppers at Nats. Like, that wasn't a problem. That wasn't the problem. If you're going to take Prism to a PT level event, I think you should be comfortable playing through a set of 7 power poppers in most matchups. In your aggro matchups, you need to be able to play through a set of 7 power poppers. Otherwise, I think Prism just isn't the deck for you to bring. Like, that's just going to happen. You're going to run into that. And I think the deck is totally fine to play through a single set of 7 power poppers, or a set of 7 powers and a set of 6 powers. Like, the deck can just do that. It is capable of doing that. Is it easy? Not necessarily. Is it something you can do all the time? Not always, but more often than people think, in my opinion. A lot of people seem to be to have the idea that it takes like Prism from 80% in a matchup to like 30 or 40%, and I very heavily disagree with that. I think the poppers 1 through 3, or 7 power poppers 1 through 3 probably move matchups somewhere 10 to 15%, if I had to guess. Just because, like, you're going to have turns where you don't have poppers. And my turns are just better than yours when you don't have a popper. That's just it. I don't need every turn to go perfectly. Prism doesn't need, in the aggro plans like Slippy and Syndra, I don't need every turn to go perfectly. I just need enough of them to be solid that I'm going to kind of just I'm going to have better numbers than you. So, like, just saying there's going to be, people are going to have Blanches in their deck, that doesn't move anything for me. If I can't play through that, I'm not bringing Prism. That's the bottom line for me on all of this. If I can't play through a set of 3 Blanches, I shouldn't bring Prism. I won't bring Prism if I can't play through 3 Blanches. That's it for me. That's where I think that's at. Here's what actually does it. And it comes back to like the Ira problem of why is that matchup bad? And it's not because Ira brings poppers. She has 12 poppers. It's annoying. But then her clock is just a little bit slower as well. But it's the combination of poppers and D-reacts. It's that you have just less turns where things can go right. And it's also that your 7 power heralds lose a lot of their effectiveness because that breakpoint is suddenly gone. It's that your angelic wraths are less effective. It's that your heralds of erudition are less effective. All of these things get moved by extra D reacts being in the deck, particularly like the 4 blocks, Sync, Flick, Flack, Shelter. Not as much the 3 block reacts. They're still good because they just stop wraths and they help stop eruditions and whatnot. But what happened is Slippy became the best deck. Whoop. Which means Syndra, trying to stay up there, is suddenly bringing 6 D-reacts and 3 poppers. Which means it's just so much... She's just so much more efficient at stopping the red heralds. And this is, I think, part of what I ran into in those 2 Syndra games, is I had not kind of taken that next step in the meta of Slippy is the best deck. If you're going to play an aggro deck, just play Slippy. It does Syndra, but with disruption, yada yada, that whole bit. And I didn't take the next step on how would Syndras respond. And I didn't get the games into Syndra that I needed to like recalibrate where I was at. And I think I might have changed the list slightly if I had. Um, so I think those D reacts actually mattered more. And I think a decent number of Prism players agree with me on this, where it's just like it's not a those first three poppers, fine. I can play through those. It's when you start like layering this stuff and combining all of it that it like matters. It's not just that there's three extra blanches. It's that there's three blanches plus 6D reacts, or three bastions plus 6D reacts, or three blanch plus three bastion and 6D reacts. Like that's when it starts like actually getting difficult. That's when you start actually like pushing back. So I think that's part of something I missed going in. Um, and as a uh, as a result, I think my list should have been a little bit different. I still liked the red 12 red herald count. I think it's still good. I might have changed these to tenacities to try and combat those D reacts a little bit more, make things a little bit more awkward. The slippies also could be on it like a solid number of D reacts because the mirror is going to be one of their most represented matchups. Um, and then the sinks and shelters are still just going to be good into us. So that might have changed. I do have the third blue angelic wrath, and I think I ran into a slight problem in this event, or something that like I hadn't had happen a ton before, which is I would draw a lot of hands. Let's see if I can get one that look something. No, something kind of like this, where I'm kind of incentivized to not play the Wrath. It's just better for me to send a second Herald. So like often it would be like yellow Wrath is my only yellow. Let's see if I can just grab an aggro sideboard for this real quick. Let's see. Nope, those hands happened a lot too. That's a bad hand. This hand happened a couple times, kind of. Where's the yellow Wrath? Not this hand. This hand is fine. But I would end up with hands that, like, the yellow Wrath is my only yellow. And I can't Wrath that turn. Because I need to pitch it. Which my hands just felt more inflexible than I had been used to. Here. Like, this hand, but assume this is a Herald. Nah, it's not even... Whatever. Just like... Things were just like just slightly more awkward because I think I had pushed the yellow count down just a little bit too much, because I was treating these just as they can only play one role in each hand, and I hadn't like totally accounted for that yet in this deck building process, where I feel like I'm kind of rebuilding a little bit. And that kind of felt that was something that I noticed, and it's something I really want to like work on in the next couple weeks. I'm going to spend a lot of time, I think, on the Herald aggro plan and what I want it to look like going forward, especially after this event. Reprimand was Second is out at the moment for me. Reprimand was because I wanted Verdance to be blocking. I did not want to just play Second and then they go Heartbeat, Waning Moon, Felling. Or discard fruits, Felling, or whatever. I want them to be blocking. I want Verdance to get cards out of their hand because the games they win are the games where they rush me down. So I want to present a Herald at them, have them block it, reprimand it. Even if they have the D-React, that's fine. I'd rather them give me 2 cards than send them at me. And they can't run too many D-Reacts into me anyways, because if like I don't have the reprimand, or if this lines up with a Wrath and I get to like blow out that way, like... And also into that matchup, I kind of changed the way I was playing it a little bit, but not a ton. Something I definitely want to explore more going forward. But also, like, Second isn't great into any of these top 4. I don't run it into Dio. Victor would be the only one in the top 10 where I would want Second. because I would probably want it. Florian, I would want Reprimand again. Vincent, I would probably want Reprimand again. Jarl, I think either is fine, but probably Sekhem. Um, but Sekhem isn't a Herald I want into any of these. I don't mind when any of these decks are actually blocking me. That's usually a benefit to me. And Sekhem doesn't encourage them to do that. Sekhem is for like the ultra slow fatigue matchups. So I was on Reprimand, and it was okay. It was like the lesser of two evils, essentially. But yeah, Riches felt good. It just kind of did the thing in the Aura matchups. It's really good for that. I'll talk about the Gravy mat. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna go do a little write up on this on the Metafy page for my current list. I don't know that I'll move this list that much, but I'll probably do a significant edit to it at some point in the coming weeks. So let's talk about what happened with Prism, though, in the PT, because it was a little weird. 12 and 13 against Slippy, that's fine. That's 2 games away from anything, from any record. 25 games. 4 and 12 into Gravy Bones. This is not a large sample size, but even then, that's a significant swing. Having to move 4 games to get to 50-50 is a lot. I'm not sure what happened here with this. I did not get to play against any Gravy Bones. I suspect the Gravy Bones players have gotten a little bit better at the matchup. I don't know what game plans all the Prisms were bringing. I know what one of them was doing. But I honestly don't know what happened here. This number is an anomaly to me. I don't know. I don't think this is representative of the matchup for me. And I don't have a good explanation as to why this happened. Because this is an anomaly. This is... I don't know if a statistics person would say this is statistically significant, but this is enough of an outlier or enough of a deviation from my expectations that it set off alarm bells. And it's weird. I think the matchup is still weird, and I think both sides are still learning it in reality. But I don't know. I genuinely don't know what happened here. Really. Versus Syndra. I mean, two of these are me. I think the D-React count might have caught a couple other Prisms off guard. I don't know. But I think that's where that is coming from, is they add D-Reacts and they get better at blocking the 7s, and we can't take that for granted. We can't be quite as cavalier necessarily with our life total. But that doesn't surprise me for where my prep was. I am part of this, and I think we can swing it back for sure. But this is probably what I would have gotten on the weekend with this list and with my prep. So, I don't know. Verdant's matchup, 3 and 5, 1 game off 50-50. Sure. That's not like crazy or anything. Dio, 3-4, sure. And then we're just getting into very small sample sizes here. Yeah, like these are all too small to like really even pull anything from. I think this was like kind of the big one, this and the Syndra record. I honestly don't know. I plan to jam a bunch of Gravy, Prism versus Gravy matchup and see what happens. But yeah. Okay, so with that, I do want to take a look at Prez's list. Because this was really interesting. This was really cool. And the more I think about this, the more I like it. This is really cool. Like, hats off. I have wanted more 1 costs in the deck for so long. And this does it pretty well. It doesn't do it perfectly, by any means. You basically have to have a blue in your hand in order to play this. It's a kind of inflexible card. It doesn't like playing in the Aura matchups because it's not a light card even. It's a 2-block, but it's almost always going to do something. I kind of wish that this could hit D-Reacts, but it can always hit poppers. They have to have double popper, which basically no one ever will, into us. And you don't need your Herald to have go again necessarily on this turn. Yes, they're going to get a ponder. Most decks ponder pretty well right now. But you're kind of okay with that because your trade-off for the ponder is that you're much more likely to get a Herald to hit, not necessarily on this turn, but if not this turn, then the next turn. Because for them to stop a Herald, you probably are getting minimum 2 cards after this. So the two primary play patterns that I think Prez talked about, and if you want more on this, go see what he said in Purple Chat. He did a great job talking about it. I think he really nailed it with this. This, you play this with a Herald and a blue, and you go this into the Herald. The Herald doesn't have go again, but that's fine. Or you're going to play a 5-card hand of this with a yellow into a Herald into another Herald. Or you can go this Herald Shariah with 2 float off a blue, play another Herald, and like Arsenal Ponder. Like the play patterns for this are pretty solid. And I think they're better. It's better at the moment than it has been before. I think this would have been pretty mediocre into Aurora. I think it would have been fine into Enigma, in all honesty, but Spears of Surreality might be better as if we're looking for 1 costs, particularly yellows and 3 blocks. Spears might have just done it better, especially since there are a decent number of whiffs against Enigma. I don't know if it would be good against Florian. It's probably still good against Verdance. I'm pretty sure he has it in against Verdance. Yeah. Taking their popper, taking their felling. You can disrupt Verdance pretty heavily and like lower their damage output a lot. Even if it's not this turn because they just play whatever was in their arsenal waiting, like you're hitting their next turn. And so Prez has this in over Blue Wrath essentially. And I like it. I do. I think it's really interesting. Like it's not as good into Marionette. It's going to be good into Slippy because you can take either their only attack or whatever like awkward piece they have if you want to put a Leave No Witnesses on the bottom because they don't have one for Codex yet. If it's a Bonds Agony, Persuasive Prognosis, even Kiss of Death as just like their first thing that you just don't want to deal with. To make it so they have to flick a dagger. There's a lot of potential in this card for you to not necessarily outplay your opponent, but really express your understanding of the game state. And I haven't even gotten to play a game with it yet, and I'm really interested to try it and see where I would fit it in this list, in my list, if I could. It would probably be some number of Blue Wraths, and I have to move the blues around a bit. Card's interesting. It's really cool. It does something in this meta that I think I hadn't anticipated. Like even beyond Slippy, like you can hit the Tipple, you can hit the Conqueror, you can hit Sea Legs. You can just like even hitting their blue Jittery Bones so that they can't play an ally. Cool. That's not bad. Syndra, if you hit their only starter, you hit their Chain Ender, you hit the Lava Burst, you hit the Wrath of Retribution. They're never going to see that again. Like, Lost in Thought, and I don't know if it goes in against the ninjas. I'm not sure it does. It's probably all right against Dio, in all honesty. Taking their only blue, taking their only like red boost card, taking the max fee out of their hand so they can't pop or send it at you. It's a really interesting card. It does a lot more than the more I thought about it, the more I realized it did. So, yeah, big shout out to Prez on this one. The guy nailed it. Made 19th as well at the PT. I think he went 8-1 with Prism. His only loss being to a Slippy in his first round. And then he won out from there. I think also beating like a Florian and some other stuff. No free matchups. Or not all free matchups, I should say. It was a very average kind of bracket, I think. So yeah, huge shout out there to Prez. Nailed it. Awesome. This is a great piece of tech. This is great. So, uh, quickly on this with this result, what am I doing? Um, I think content has to slow down a little bit. Um, I want to spend more time playing the game. I had skipped a lot of armories and other stuff in the last couple months, honestly, where I was just playing the game less to do this stuff. Part of that, I think, was I ended up skipping a lot of armories to work on the written primer over the guide that went up on Metafy. Um, and that was a huge time commitment, and I had committed myself to it. And I don't like regret it. Do I wish it hadn't come at the expense of a PT? Yeah, but I'd still do it again. That being said, uh, this stuff is going to take a backseat. Because before I was doing like 2 videos a week, which is crazy. That's a crazy amount of time and work. Um, so I'm going to be dialing it back. I'm not going to be holding myself to a schedule, especially now that um, all of that stuff is kind of done. I think the primer is like mostly done except for like matchups, which I want to like really do properly and dedicate the time to, because I don't think I have understandings a great understanding of any particular matchup except like the Vincent matchup. That's the only one I've spent the time really nailing down, and I want to fix that. Um, so it's going to take time as I put more stuff out. I really want to just commit back to playing the game because I love playing this game. This is it's why I've continued to do this. Um, I'm still going to keep doing stuff. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be putting out videos. I still have a couple other videos that I actually want to do that have more to do with kind of deck construction or other simulations that I'm planning to run or have been working on. So I will do those, stuff akin to the library video. And I actually like probably want to do another bit on library to see if I can take all that math a step further. So I, yeah, no promises on anything, no schedules on any of that. But I'm gonna keep working, but playing the game is gonna come first from here on. Now that the main chunk of the stuff is done, um, yeah, playing is gonna come first. I'm still gonna be at all the events, of course, because of that. Thank you to everyone who's come up and said hi to me at events. Thank you to everyone who's bought the primer off Metafy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's it for the moment. A lot more than I guess just Singapore, but I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep working. I'm still a little jet lagged, and I'm probably gonna go to bed as soon as I'm done editing this. And I'm probably gonna be pretty lazy about this edit. But yeah, I think that's it for now. With that, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. Um, yeah, that'll be it. Peace.